Hey everybody, welcome back to School Sucks Live. This is hour 2 of our special live show. And I'm Brett.
I'm Cory.
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess I'm Osborne.
Yeah, you guys are the co-hosts of this show.
Really?
Yep.
Co-host?
Co-host, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I was just peanut gallery.
It would be silly to call you guests at this point.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you've been here so many times.
Right. True.
Glad you're here. We got a lot
Yay.
to talk about tonight. Sounds like we might have a lot to talk about in our After School Sucks special, a little thing we do at midnight.
I believe we will.
Doesn't have to be related to school, you know? Because after school, right?
It's pretty much whatever's on our minds.
Whatever's on our mind. We usually talk about movies, food, adult topics. It's you can call in too. I just opened up Skype, so if anyone wants to join this conversation, if anyone wants to vent on the whole Bill Maher political left-right paradigm stuff, I know that's helpful sometimes. And like I said, one of the goals for tonight's show was to let go of this resentment that I've held towards Bill Maher. I think I mentioned this at one time before I formulated the idea for School Sucks podcast. I actually wanted to do this show, Reality Time, for Bill Maher, where we just, broke down the hour-long show. But the truth is, it would take like 4 hours to effectively deconstruct one episode of Real Time with Bill Maher. We were introducing people to Bill Maher if they're unfamiliar or rusty on who Bill Maher is. We were playing this discussion that he was having with Ron Paul.
Right.
So we talked about the well poisoning of, so here's a guy who's against the Civil War. Ha, ha, ha. And then he asked him about global warming, hoping he can bait him again, it seems. And Ron Paul was in the middle of his answer, so I want to just pick that up. We'll finish it, and then we'll get into these two fallacies we discussed, composition and division.
At this point in our very tenuous history, global warming in that list. Don't you think the government has to do something about global warming?
Well, then you have to deal with the volcanoes, and you have to deal with the pollution of China. So do you want to invade China to make sure they don't pollute? And what are you going to do about the volcanoes? They are all contributing factors to global warming. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do what we can to slow up the emissions and stop subsidizing big oil companies. I don't like subsidizing oil companies. They've been doing that for years. We go to war to protect oil so we can buy more oil and burn more oil. So I would say our foreign policy contributes to global warming by subsidizing a policy that is deeply flawed, and that's why we're in the Middle East, to protect oil interests. So yes, that would be one of the first things you could do if you're serious.
But still against the Civil War. Okay. What about the FAA? I mean, that does prevent planes from crashing into each other. It is.
The last one, I don't get. Would pilots be 20,000 feet above our houses playing chicken with each other if it wasn't for bureaucrats?
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the air traffic controllers who keep planes from crashing into each other. And I'm sure they would still have those if there wasn't an FAA.
Yeah, and every modern aircraft has computers in there that tell them where all the other traffic is at any time anyway.
You know what else they have? Windows.
Right in the front.
Right in the front
the
of the
best
pilot.
place for a fast-moving vehicle, I've found from my experience as a driver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that, but depending on there's conventions as to what flight level you travel at, depending on which direction you're heading.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not flying at 18,000 feet going west while someone else is flying at 18,000 feet going east. You don't do that.
So you're saying that without violence, we wouldn't have planes just smashing into each other like the beginning of La Bamba all over the place. This is the claim.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm dubious.
So I thought that I used that Ron Paul clip because I found it incredibly insincere on Maher's part that this is supposed to be a serious interview where he's having him on as a presidential candidate. I'm no 100% supporter of Ron Paul. I think I've been very clear about that on the show. I don't vote. I can't believe it took us an hour to say this, but this is in no way an endorsement for anything Republican.
Right.
The fact that we're choosing to use this show right before the election to criticize Maher and his support of Obama. That does not mean that if you're brand new, if you're just discovering us on Ustream, that does not mean we are in any way in favor of the alternative.
The whole tail end of that clip, it's just made him, it seemed very, I mean, the whole thing, he seemed disingenuous throughout. Like, he was not interested in having an actual conversation with Ron Paul about anything.
No.
He just wanted to get his digs in. But the very end of it was even worse. It just seemed so petty. Like, As soon as Ron Paul got like a favorable reaction from Bill Maher's audience, Bill Maher had to take him down a peg.
Yeah, to repoison. Oh, wait, the well is becoming less poisonous, so let's make sure we repoison it.
We've diluted the poisonous well with facts, and now I must repoison.
Yeah. So if that was your introduction to Bill Maher, I'm sorry. Someone in the chat said, wouldn't people just be better off not knowing who Bill Maher is? Well, I mean, I've encountered people who like watching Bill Maher and then talking to liberals and then hearing liberals say like things from the Bill Maher show.
Yeah.
Like this is in our current age and with all of the faults of the mainstream media, these shows that masquerade as comedy have become legitimate news sources for a lot of people. This is not even a relatively new trend. And this goes back with the Daily Show, the Colbert Report. For years, I told kids and got in trouble for this in a private school that I worked at in 2005 that they could learn more about how the world really works by watching South Park than the mainstream media. And I stand by that statement today.
Yeah.
So I want to get into these two fallacies that we said we would cover in the show today. The first one is composition. The second one is division. If you're just joining us, very simply put, composition is taking the properties of an individual within a group and then claiming that the entire group possesses those properties. Division is to take some general rules for the group and then applying it down, saying the individual must have these properties.
Right.
So if a picket in a fence is white, to say that the whole fence is white is the error of composition.
Right.
Division is just the opposite. Can we think of good examples of division? Was the one I used earlier. Something about, the company, right? So a company does environmentally conscious things. Therefore, everybody who works at the company must be environmentally conscious. And these are both related to the fallacy of hasty generalization, which is, not having enough evidence to make a proper conclusion, having too few examples to make a generalization. So the fallacy of composition is an inductive error. Induction, or the inductive method, similar to the scientific method, basically, where you gather pieces of evidence and work towards a general conclusion about all of that evidence, while the deductive method is the opposite, where you start with a general rule and try to put things in to add new pieces of evidence underneath the rule. So you're supporting the rule that already exists with new examples. To read from Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology by Ayn Rand, the process of forming and applying concepts contains the essential pattern of two fundamental methods of cognition, induction and deduction. The process of observing the facts of reality and of integrating them into concepts is, in essence, a process of induction. The process of subsuming, putting under, new instances under a known concept is, in essence, a process of deduction. And remember, the philosophy of objectivism in general was to take these two, this split philosophically between the rationalists and the empiricists, those who said you cannot trust like evidentiary experience and you really have to rely on your mind, people like Plato, those were the rationalists, while the empiricists were people who said you can only trust experience, your mind, makes all of these errors, so you can only rely on the senses.
Right.
Rand, when objectivism came along, said, no, you need them both. They work together. Kant, in the philosophy we still live in today of German idealism, which was the philosophy of the Nazis and a lot of irrationality throughout the 19th and 20th century, and like I said, continuing right, it is the prevailing philosophy in the United States today, that reality is unknowable, your mind is untrustworthy. Right? So people say, well, geez, I can't make sense with my own mind, and this is really why the authority-based arguments that we talked about a few episodes back are so effective. This is School Sucks Live. We'd love to have you join the conversation. 843-JOIN-SSP. Skype in School Sucks Live. We will be back with more in just a couple minutes. Hang with us.
MindThings.com is a fun online game that pits you against people around the world.
All right. What are you watching, Osborne? Oh.
Checking the floor.
So you want to tell that story, that cop story, during the after show? Do you want to
sure.
start the after show with that? I'm really sorry, everyone watching. I feel really off tonight. I was saying to Osborne,
I'm pretty off myself.
what should we do before the show to be on?
I wish I had that story, that top story, on some kind of connected device in front of me, but my batteries are all dead.
Oh no!
For 2 days with no power, so I didn't even bring. I brought my phone. But
I should have brought you a latte.
A what?
A latte.
What's a latte?
A latte of Osborne. It's a quadruple shot of espresso with 4 ounces of steamed heavy cream.
Is there anything with caffeine in that refrigerator that's not Mountain Dew?
No.
God damn it!
son of a...
You could eat your vegetables that I brought you.
You brought those for me? I got to stop eating at Chipotle. I'm falling into your corn chip trap.
Oh, you can't do that.
No. I mean, I'm working out. I'm going to the gym. I've gotten really into it again. You know what I watched the other night? Like for 45 minutes?
What?
Pumping Iron.
Really?
I don't know why. You know the YouTube thing where you say...
It was Pumping Iron and not Pumping Irene?
No, Pumping Iron, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Okay.
Oh,
You know the
never heard
YouTube thing where you're like, oh, I got to find a clip of Bob Murphy talking about the broken window fallacy, and 15 minutes later you're watching an episode of Different Strokes from
Oh, yeah,
1984.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So, I somehow I got to Schwarzenegger. Oh, because I think I turned on the TV and Predator was on, and a guy walks by, and I was like, was that Jesse Ventura?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, he dies real early in the movie, but I only watched it for 15 minutes. So then I looked at Predator on IMDb, and wound up on YouTube, some Schwarzenegger thing, watching this movie. This was the movie that basically put him on the map. It was the movie about the Mr. Universe competition where he's competing with Lou Ferrigno in 1976. He was the most beautiful man, well, from like the neck down. You know, like his physique was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like unlike anything I've ever seen on any other man. And I read, bodybuilding magazines and watch gay porn, but have never seen anything like that.
You do those two things at the same time?
It's well, most of the bodybuilding magazines are online, so you do, 2 monitors.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I know. My second monitor always has gay porn on it.
Yeah. So that way you can kind of like match them up. You can combine them in your mind.
Right.
Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
Pumping Irene.
What if the key to achieving
Yeah.
liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think
Jamie and I had a whole bit about that on Wheels Off Liberty once, but I don't remember what it was. Hey, if you're just joining us, this is our breaks. I keep broadcasting during the breaks. So we just try to have some loose chat to entertain you, and the show will be back in, just a minute.
Just a
Wheels
minute.
Off Liberty. What is this big announcement?
Yeah.
I can't say it here. Do people want to hear the Wheels Off Liberty announcement?
Did they make it already?
They
No.
just said there's an announcement forthcoming.
Man,
Mute your microphone.
there's a lot of that sort of thing going on lately in the media.
It's more than just activism.
Use my microphone.
Mute the microphone.
See what's happening at freekeen.com and get connected with video, audio.
Sorry, everyone. I'm just going to tell a secret to these guys.
Tools you can download and use in your area at freekeen.com. That's freekeen.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Hey, everybody, this is Brett. Welcome back to School Sucks Live. I'm in the studio here with Cory and Osborne, and we are recording, quite possibly, installment number 6 in our series Logic Saves Lives. This episode will be entitled Reality Time for Bill Maher. That's the title of a podcast that I wanted to start many years ago. Instead, I started doing a podcast that you're all familiar with called This Week in Tech. Became very popular, and I passed it off to, what's his name?
Some guy?
Some other guy. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Leo Laporte. We had
Okay.
25 cameras Man, it's been all downhill.
Now I know his name, but I still don't know who he is.
I've never listened to that.
No, the podcast that I started was School Sucks Podcast. Because before I started School Sucks Podcast, I had a lot of different ideas. I said, I should do like a political podcast, like something like that. Like I talk a lot. I have no ideas. I know stuff. I was a teacher. And then I decided, I should probably do a podcast about what I know the most about, which is school. So that's what I did. But this reality time for Bill Maher had a lot of potential. It would take too long to do what we were talking about. So finally, here we are.
We haven't gotten we're in hour 2 already. We haven't really gotten that far into it.
No, because you would just go off on tangents, like angry tirades about what an idiot these people are. And, he has some very, very liberal.
He voluntarily has Ann Coulter on the show sometimes.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Like she had something to contribute.
Well, yeah, those are really kind of like go nowhere discussion because all they want to deal with is facts. Like no one could ever talk about what they really want to get out of the conversation, and they couldn't really do more principled or moral-based arguments because, that would be very explosive.
Because those people are all whores. So there is no principles or reason involved.
All right. Hey.
There, I said it.
That's a hot political opinion.
Wow.
So we were getting into the fallacy of composition. And, of course, Maher, like we said earlier, is preaching to a choir. Very liberal audience. I remember one time Christopher Hitchens called him out, right? Where they said, your audience will applaud at anything, that you say.
I remember that episode.
And then he flipped them off.
He did.
That was pretty...
they didn't applaud that.
No, they booed.
They booed him.
But Maher often uses the momentum of established dislikes, right? To make generalizations about anyone who is against his agenda. Right. So he can use the momentum of, we don't like Romney, or we don't like Newt Gingrich, or Sheldon Adelson, as you're going to hear in a clip coming up, who was Newt Gingrich's biggest campaign contributor. So what we're going to start with is just a couple of clips that are pretty much examples, slightly more complex than the simple examples that we looked at, not related to politics early in the show, of the fallacy of composition. So here's the Mitt Romney Company's example.
Oh, yes.
Now, this is very, very clever. So using the momentum of being anti-Romney to make a point about his political ideology in general.
So these companies, these kind of Mitt Romney companies, these businessmen who...
These companies, these kind of Mitt Romney companies.
What does that mean?
Right, so this is going to be a speech against capitalism, essentially. Which I don't know why liberals think Obama is like a Che Guevara or something. I mean, somebody who was on the show is like, he's basically a Rockefeller Republican, and he's a Wall Street errand boy. He's not like this socialist utopian leader that all of the liberals dreamed about. But they still want to push this agenda. So these Mitt Romney kind of companies...
Well, selling Obama as a Che Guevara type mostly works on people who don't know anything about Che Guevara.
Or people who know a lot about U.S. foreign policy. Yeah. What else? Because Che Guevara was a murderer. All right, let's pick that up from the beginning. Sorry, I hope that's not too controversial.
So these companies, these kind of Mitt Romney companies, these businessmen who got so up in arms when Obama said, you didn't build that, referring to the infrastructure that made their lives possible as a company, living in a country like America where you can make a fortune. And the Republican convention was a lot about, we did build that. But really, what Mitt Romney did with companies is he unbuilt them.
Well,
he unbuilt that.
Exactly.
All right, so he's talking to Matt Taibbi, who wrote a book about, he's an investigative reporter who wrote a book about Romney's, business past, which I'm sure these things are true, right?
Yeah, of course.
But to make this point about people who work for profit in general, or people who think that they actually built things. I mean, you're a business owner, right?
Sure.
And we know entrepreneurs who worked for over a year to start businesses in this state, which is apparently pretty free. How did that make you feel, Osborne, when he said, if you own a company, you didn't do that?
Well, that's not what he said, so that didn't really make me feel anything in particular.
Was he talking? What was the quote?
He was talking about roads and infrastructure and saying that, like, if you have a business, you're not the one who built these roads.
So this is similar to what Elizabeth Warren said. Now, the problem with that statement,
Yeah.
I mean, this was the thing that
Yeah,
became a huge
there
internet
are
meme.
plenty of other problems with that, but not what people were making of it.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, most people didn't hear it when he said it. Most people saw it, heard it when somebody posted about it on Facebook.
Or after it had been reduced to that soundbite.
Right.
Right.
Where if you had a business, he should know by this point. Like someone should be telling him, especially when he's reading off. I mean, his speeches are usually prepared, I would think.
Right.
When he's speaking to a bunch of people, maybe that was spontaneous. But the way it is, if you have a business, you didn't build that. He allowed that sound clip to be created by saying one thing after another. You know, I've deleted things out of podcasts before that a few thousand people are listening to because I could say if somebody wanted to, they could cut that up and make me look like this or that.
Right.
You'd think he would be more careful about that.
You would think.
But these Mitt Romney companies is a perfect example of low-hanging fruit. Here's another one, using the momentum of the audience's hatred for this Sheldon Adelson, this big right-wing campaign funder.
And he's just one in a long line of millionaires and billionaires who have decided to spend their golden years bitching and moaning about how they're being overtaxed and underappreciated. Why has Sheldon Adelson, who I'm sure you all remember as the puppet in the Saw movies...
I said we'd excuse ad hominems.
Right.
Why has he spent $70 million to defeat Obama when his net worth during the Obama years has increased more than any other single American? I think it's because down deep, he knows he didn't earn it. No one can earn $25 billion.
So there's also a tremendous amount of like speculation here as
and
well.
hypocrisy.
Right.
I mean, what is the amount of money you can earn? If 25 billion is so much that you couldn't possibly actually earn it, what about 23 million?
Yeah, and if someone couldn't possibly earn that much money, what did his precious Obama do to stop it? Clearly nothing.
Ooh.
Well, I think that's what he's saying, that this guy has actually had a larger increase in his wealth during the Obama administration, actually, I believe.
So it's all about the rage and self-hatred that comes from feeling your life is a fraud. Rich guys have always suffered from this.
Have they? I don't think they have.
We'll pick that up in just a minute when we get back. This is School Sucks Live. Give us a call, 843-JOIN SSP, Skype in School Sucks Live. We'll be back in a few.
Free Talk Live.
It hasn't been unheard of for the police to insert an instigator.
This sounds old.
These are things they do, believe it or not. They'll have a plainclothes officer go into the protest and act as though he's one of the protesters, and then the plainclothes officer will start something with another one of the police.
Oh, come on. This sounds like a conspiracy theory now.
This is not a conspiracy theory. These are confirmed occurrences. Let's give the cops a benefit of the doubt and say it really was some instigator starting stuff with the cops. Does that mean that it's appropriate to flush every single person out of the park with rubber bullets, tear gas, and other sorts of offensive devices?
Doesn't seem like it to me.
Would it make more sense to stop the person who's instigating?
All right, we're back on
Put a stop to those
for the
specific individual?
For the break.
Yeah.
Yes.
Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
So
How much money does Bill Maher? Somebody says 23 million. Was that you?
23
Are
million.
you in the chat? Did you type 23 million? From now on, do you want to operate in anonymity in the chat so you control people, or is it okay if I... Yeah, I think you'd have to log in through Ustream. Ustreamer 432415 is Osborne. So if you have any questions that you want to ask on the show, he is in the chat. Or you have any comments that you want on the show. say it in the chat. Say this on the show. But then don't say something like cocksucker motherfucker.
Right.
We can't say that on the show because
We
when
have
we're
to
not
be delicate when we're on LRN.
Yeah, when we're not on these breaks, like you can hear the break music and the break commercials in the background there. We can't say those things on the radio.
While we're on break, we can say what we want, right?
On the break, we can say
kill, fuck, soul shitter.
Whoa.
For example.
Yeah.
That's the name of the protagonist of a screenplay I'm working on.
Yeah.
Kill, fuck, soul shitter.
It's intense.
It's an action movie. He's got two partners. One of them is named Snake Gandhi, who is Mahatma Gandhi's brother. And his other partner is named Brock Hardcock.
Those are good names.
Excellent. Action hero names. Am I right?
Someone points out, we're getting to, someone says in the chat, I wonder what percentage of his income he pays in taxes. We're going to get to that. I did some digging on the history of Bill Maher. I had to watch 4 hours of Bill Maher yesterday to prepare for this show. And we haven't even gotten into any of my prep yet, barely. Ugh, live radio.
Where did you get all these episodes of Bill Maher?
You can download it as a podcast, but there's also a lot of the overtimes are on YouTube.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I want to hear that podcast of Sheldon Cook, who teaches you how to talk right.
And involving more than $1 trillion.
Have you ever heard the ads for that on LRN?
Oh, yeah. Those are very good ads.
Yeah.
To study and consider.
I might like to listen to that.
60 pages of legislation per hour.
How to talk right?
Think anyone read the entire bill?
Yep. Someone says Ian said you could swear on LRN. I don't want to say the F word, really.
I think if we loosen the lid even the slightest bit while we're on LRN,
like a Pandora's box.
Exactly.
It would go crazy real quick.
Just an unending torrent of just foul. Because when I get going, it's gross.
Maybe I could say shit once every show. James 630 in the chat says soul shitter.
Kill fuck soul shitter.
I think he just said the last name.
What's up next?
Anyone have any questions or comments you want to have read on the show? Say on the show, and then
Osborne will be your puppet.
Yep. Hey everybody, this is Brett. Welcome back to School Sucks Live. I'm in the studio in Manchester, New Hampshire tonight with Cory and Osborne. We've got about 22 minutes left, which is 2 segments of our regular show before we go on to the after show. We are discussing the HBO late night program that airs live every Friday night called Real Time with Bill Maher. It is a political and social commentary show. It is also has a debate format where Bill has a panel on. He brings in people from the left, people from the right, and they throw factoids kind of at each other, like statistics and stuff, and most of their discussions really go nowhere, and they recycle it each and every week. But it is, when looking out across the rest of the mainstream media, probably the most intelligent and entertaining political debate show on television. And I've been very disappointed with this program for the last few years, when it basically became, after being real truth to power type stuff very frequently during the administration of George W. Bush, became public relations for the Obama administration and what I would call a liberal agenda. It hasn't really been Obama's agenda, because Maher has been critical of Obama sometimes for not being what the dream of Obama was enough. Right. So we are looking at some common fallacies used on this program. Bill Maher is the king of a fallacy called composition, where, well, I don't need to define it again. If you've been listening, it's when you take the properties of an individual within a group and apply those properties to the entire group. We were in the middle of a clip where he was talking about rich guys. So he uses the momentum, like I said before, of everybody in the audience hates this one guy, so he makes a rule for all rich guys. I just want to finish that clip up and then we'll move on.
Self-hatred that comes from feeling your life is a fraud. Rich guys have always suffered from this. It's just that they used to deal with it by putting on a diaper and hiring a prostitute to beat them. Now they form a super PAC. All right, that's our show.
I think he's projecting his own proclivities onto other rich guys.
Yeah. It's funny when people talk about rich guys, they always have to find someone who's richer than they are in order to deride them.
Yep.
So like he has to go to this guy who made, $23 billion because he can't talk about someone who made $23 million because then he'd be talking about himself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that he did accidentally kind of apply that to himself if you're just using the general term rich guys.
Right.
I mean, $23 million net worth is very, very wealthy.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so funny, the clip we played at the beginning of the show where he says, this is a selfish thing that I'm doing, voting for Obama, who will supposedly raise my taxes.
That doesn't even make any sense.
No, I mean, I don't know if people have heard this before. Maybe you're new to the show. Somebody in the chat mentions Michael Moore. Yes, another very similar character. But why is Hollywood so liberal? And my working theory was Hollywood is so liberal because so much is taken from these people that they have to tell themselves a story. The government as my own fantasy baseball team, that it can be used for something good. And if I continue to vote for these people, all of this institution that I have to dump all of these millions of dollars into, or hundreds of thousands of dollars into every year. I'm sure Bill Maher pays hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes every year, if not over $1 million. Well, it has to be good. I couldn't do that to an evil institution.
I always kind of thought it was maybe partially because the people in Hollywood are not old money. People who become successful in Hollywood. I mean, there are exceptions to this, but a lot of them come from humble beginnings and maybe feel guilty about being rich.
You think so?
Because they remember what it's like to be poor. Unlike, somebody who was born into a rich family. And
well, another idea might be that unlike any other profession, like that's really one where you kind of get into it by accident of your genetics and your particular talents that you were born with, as opposed to actually working hard.
And I think that
not that no one in Hollywood has worked hard to get where they are, but like a lot of them seem to just kind of stumble into it by accident.
Yeah.
Same with professional sports.
I think it sort of feeds on itself too. Like I think Hollywood continues to be so liberal because Hollywood is so liberal, and you're gonna make the wrong kind of waves in Hollywood if you're not with the liberal program.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like whenever somebody who's like any kind of like entertainment type celebrity like leans towards more of a right wing cause, they become a laughing stock.
Yeah.
They're like kind of shunned by the rest of Hollywood.
Sure. And things that can't get done in Hollywood, like as far as movie projects. As a result of that. I mean, a couple squeak through here and there, but they have to be cleverly embedded into fantastical stories like The Matrix,
right?
For example, maybe like V for Vendetta, even though I don't agree with every message of that movie,
right?
Was a little bit more overt, but of course, Hollywood is very liberal, and I think these are all possible reasons. Like to speak to what Osborne said, or what both of you said, or maybe did you say it about I can't believe. Maybe this new money thing.
Yeah, that was me.
I listened to this podcast, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, where he interviews comedians who are kind of, coming up and realizing the success in comedy. So people like Galifianakis,
right,
and Adam Carolla. I used a clip of this on the show recently. Dimitri Martin. So people who they've gotten on Comedy Central. They've maybe gotten a sitcom or a comedy show of their own, and they say, I can't believe, I wake up every morning, I can't even believe this is real.
Right.
So yeah, I think that what you're saying might be valid in that case. So those are two examples, the Mitt Romney kind of companies, and Sheldon Adelson, rich guys want prostitutes to beat them while they wear a diaper, of straight composition.
So Mitt Romney is like this. Mitt Romney owns a company, therefore everyone who owns a company is Mitt Romney.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The opposite of composition, as we've said several times, is division. Now, in one of his overtimes, he's talking to Dinesh D'Souza, who is the creator of the Obama 2016 Obama's America movie,
right.
where he kind of like traces Obama's history all the way back to his ideological roots that are very, very, very far on the left, even though that hasn't really shown up that much in anywhere except Obama's rhetoric.
Right.
I don't think. And maybe a little bit here and there. But like pretty much 4 more years of Bush. Anthony Gregory of the Independent Institute just wrote an article that appeared on the Huffington Post, and I'll link to it in the show notes, called "And the Winner of the Election is George W. Bush." And it shows how similar Obama is, as we've learned in the last 4 years, and Romney is, and basically from pretty much everything that Romney, as much as he can stand for anything, it certainly he certainly defended the policies of George W. Bush when he ran for president in 2008. It's like, if you vote for one of these guys, what you're getting is 4 more years of George Bush.
And Obama's been really good at making it seem like he's not George W. Bush all over again. Like, the best example I can think of is how he was on, I think it was Leno, and he was like, making sort of indirect references to smoking pot when he was in college and how smoking weed is, it's not a big deal. Everybody does it. But if you look at his record, under his administration, there have been more federal raids on legal marijuana dispensaries than there were under the Bush administration.
Sure.
So he knows what he's doing. He knows what's actually happening, and he knows how to play it off to the public.
Absolutely.
Because he knows the public watches Leno, and they don't read statistics on federal drug rates.
Yeah. In a slightly related comment, back to the Hollywood thing again, somebody in the chat says, people in Hollywood have no opinions of their own. They're walking billboards. I like that.
That is probably true.
So what D'Souza is trying to point out, now D'Souza came out and was the pre-panel interview.
I remember
because Maher wanted 10 minutes to
really laid into him.
To really lay into him on, like, how dare you investigate, Obama's ideological
thing he really
roots.
wanted to lay into him on was that D'Souza was the one back in the politically incorrect days who supposedly actually said the thing that caused politically incorrect to get pulled off the air.
Ah, yes,
and that's
true.
what he really laid into him about.
All right, so
it was very unprofessional.
When we come back, we are going. Yeah, I did think it was a very unprofessional interview, but D'Souza comes back at the end of the show, and they talk about other topics as well. Hey, give us a call, 843 Join SSP. This is School Sucks Live. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Free Aid is a mutual aid, educational, and networking organization? At Free Aid, we support volunteers who provide first aid. We do outreach to the public about health and safety, and we bring together medically skilled freedom lovers. Free
It was about something to do with terrorism and how
why Maher got kicked off, why Politically Incorrect got kicked off ABC.
Yeah, it was something about terrorism and how, like, the government needs to take responsibility for its role in stirring up all this anti-American sentiment. And that is the competition. That was the comment that got ABC to go, oh no, this guy's too controversial. We're canceling his show. And he kind of felt like Dinesh D'Souza left him out to dry by not, he just kind of disappeared after he made the comment while Bill Maher's show got taken off the air. So we ambushed him. He had him on his show as a guest and then ambushed him and, like, basically yelled at him for getting his show kicked off the air. So I did not know that he had him on in the overtime. I've actually never watched the overtime at all.
All the overtimes are online. I shut our lights off. I wanted to try and reduce some of the glare on our faces, which is particularly bad tonight. I don't know why. That would be great. I didn't have to have a computer.
Oh, yeah?
I would look like a normal living man.
And not some kind of a vampire?
Yeah, like a ghost.
Like a glowing, pale.
I do. I look like
I
look like I'm glowing.
Got a glow about you, Brett. Are you pregnant?
Get all your shopping done. Get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network. When you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
Oh, is that what the comment was?
But the terrorists were brave for what they did.
Oh, yes, that was it. Right.
Do you support freedom, peace, and voluntary interaction? Are you looking to meet others who think like you?
Boy, I gotta stop bumping the sliders on the main mix volume, because that fucks up the recording.
Yeah, I imagine it would.
Tip for you at home who might be planning to start a podcast. Don't periodically change the volume with your elbow. Can you turn that light back on?
Yeah.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America.
Fact or crap? This past week, I got an injection in my ass and then passed out in a hotel or a hospital lobby.
That is a fact.
Or want to be one? This is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at
Not back.
Shit, that guy talks twice, doesn't he? During the breaks.
Who knows?
Government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies.
sat.lrn.fm.
Guns or tell us what
And if you can't spell the word sat, that's sat.lrn.fm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them
This
with
is the
cushy
best
jobs,
e-cigarette.
good benefits, and a chance to
Is it
push
now?
people
I'm not sure
around.
what makes it best.
It's just, it was shitty with the bad cartomizers, but with the good cart, it's just so smooth, delicious.
Guns and
I enjoy it.
The road to freedom.
Stickers! Someone in the chat, Sarah in the chat says, stickers!
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 Gunsandweed.com or on Amazon.
Gunsandweed.com or on Amazon.
Makes the perfect gift. Remember,
I haven't looked at
gunsandweed.com.
Liberty stickers.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an
All right, now we're coming back.
LRN.FM. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Hot dog! Hot dog! We are back. This is our last segment of the regular show. I am Brett. With me in the studio tonight, Cory and Osborne, as you can see on the cam there. And here I am. And we're wrapping up without really even getting started, huh? Well, we got into it a little bit. No, we did. We made it through composition, and now we're on to division. And I would say, as far as the content that I had prepared tonight, folks listening and watching at home, we made it about a quarter of the way through what I wanted to cover.
As usual.
But we do an after show, and I think in the after show, we're going to change directions. And then I go home to another studio that I have at home, which is very similar to this, where I have the same kind of mixer and the same microphone and even these same microphone boom arms that you can see. And I edit podcasts and add things to them. And I will rework this one, taking out all of the disasters that happened earlier in the show, all of the ums and ahs, all of the inappropriate things that we said to our Ustream audience during the break, and I will clean it up and make it into a nice and neat podcast. Whole process from the formulation of an idea for a show to the final product of editing is about 12 hours.
If we can get through 25% of whatever you prepped, then you only have to prep like once a month. Think about it. Nice.
Yeah, but we'd be a little light on content, I would say.
All right, fair enough.
So we've been using the HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher as examples tonight of the composition and division fallacies. I wanted to use Dinesh D'Souza's interaction with Bill Maher, where D'Souza brings up the plight of joblessness, or from people who are without jobs, and he focuses on one specific group, African Americans.
Right.
So he says that here's the situation for Black Americans. These are people that vote. I think Obama got 95% of the black vote in the last election. So why are they not recognizing that, whatever he has done in 4 years hasn't been good for them? So division is where you take the situation for the whole and then you try to apply it to the individual parts. And that's what Bill Maher, that's the logical fallacy that Bill Maher tries to make use of in this clip right here.
You got to kind of...
Well, but not only that, but I think this is at a time when blacks have been decimated by wealth erosion. Black unemployment is twice white unemployment. So if you were to say to the black community, are you better off than you were 4 years ago, the overwhelming answer would be no. And yet the loyalty to Obama persists.
Wait, let's... we ran out of time, but I just got to address this because I heard Mitt Romney say it in the speech last night. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? What balls? 4 years ago, I was stuffing my money in my mattress. We were losing 750,000 jobs a month. What is the amnesia level in this country?
So why doesn't Obama...
Of course we're better off.
All right. of course, we're better off. Right? So completely steers around the specific issue that Dinesh D'Souza brought up. Now, certainly, listen, I'm not a defender of Dinesh D'Souza on every issue.
Right.
In fact, he has some positions that I find are very, like foreign policy, Republican.
Well,
stuff.
his whole premise in making that proposal anyway is just kind of ridiculous. Like, if you voted for Obama 4 years ago and you're not better off now than you were then, that doesn't make Romney a good choice either.
Of course.
That's like people, like I actually heard from an African-American person that he wasn't going to vote for Obama the first time around because Obama wasn't black enough. And my response was, compared to who?
That's true.
So I think it's kind of a faulty premise for him to be arguing in the first place, but that may be beside the point. So let's get back to the point.
All right. So we see that D'Souza has a point to make.
Yes.
Right? Everything that Maher, or I don't want to say everything, but so much of what Maher does is these red herrings that, take the form of other fallacies, but a red herring is anything that's going to shift away from the point that Maher doesn't like, that doesn't serve his agenda, that clashes with his talking points, and he's going to steer it somewhere else. And sometimes inserting a point of laughter.
Right.
That's the danger of these comedy type shows where Maher is a comedian, but doing serious social and political commentary. Right. Inserting a point of laughter allows the discussion to totally shift in a new direction.
Right.
So let's see if we're still, Maher has done that. He's done the fallacy of division, saying, oh, well, we're all better off. So black people are better off. But do we even come back to that issue?
On the brink of a depression. Banks were closing everywhere. I was in my pants, as we all were. Are you kidding?
Bill, in Hollywood world, that may be true, but Obama won't be using that as a campaign slogan.
We weren't losing 750,000 jobs a month. That's just in my head.
This.
I didn't dream that from my father.
No, this was the Obama. No.
I read it in the paper.
Right.
Where they put the facts.
That's because Obama's job creation wasn't real jobs created, but the jobs we prevented from being lost. It was sort of the hypothetical.
That's certainly part of it.
Well, that's all made up. Those are all made up. We could have prevented 1 million jobs that would have been lost had I not done what I did. How do you prove that?
No, but these jobs were actually being lost.
Being lost? Were they lost or weren't they?
You can actually measure this. There are things called facts. They're not in the Bible, but you can actually read them. They give out the Labor Department gives out the facts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's funny that Obama ran for president criticizing the way that the Labor Department was cooking the books on unemployment, right? And they're not even the unemployment numbers are only people who are in some
actually collecting unemployment
in some kind of process with unemployment, right? Not a lot of people who've given up on and employment has run out for them,
right?
So Obama continued those book cooking practices that the Bush administration used, that he criticized them for, but Maher doesn't address that. But you see, most importantly for what we're trying to cover here, the discussion totally shifted away from the situation for black Americans.
Right, and he even threw in a dig at the Bible, which had nothing to do with what anybody was talking about.
Yeah,
but he knew it was going to get a response from his audience.
Pretty much ad hominem, right? Going after the kind of the right-wing position that you're all irrational, racist, bigots who don't believe in global warming and are selfish and greedy. I mean, that's basically
because the Indian guy sitting across from him is a racist, Christian Bible thumper.
But that's the idea that he's pushing on the show again and again. We are probably going to run out of time if I start this next clip, but in the after show, we'll take about 10 minutes of the after show to do these last two that I want to get into this discussion, and then I will deal with everything in post-production. So do you think this is valuable to go after Bill Maher? Because I think that there are a lot of people, like I thought about doing this for the debate, but it's just...
I think it's not valuable because it's about Bill Maher, but I think it is very illustrative in terms of really like giving a concrete example of actual conversations that include these fallacies and how this is what passes for intelligent discourse.
Yeah, because this is the language that people are speaking out. And I can tell you this from conversations that I've had. These things that Bill Maher says, it passes as reason. So this is another thing with the left is that we're reasonable. Right? Republicans are the only thing other than us. I know I keep sounding like we're defending Republicans on this show, but I'm not. But his whole thing is the alternative to us is irrationality.
Right.
And we're reasonable because we believe in science and global warming. And that makes us respond carbon taxes and stuff.
Well, the whole climate, the whole level of political discourse. Somebody asked me the other day, like, I mean, you know, I don't understand. Why is it everything you hear about either one of these candidates, some like ridiculous nitpick that is blown heinously out of proportion? Like some like weird outlying statistic about their background or their life that's blown all the way out of proportion and made into a talking point. That's because there's not enough other things that are different about them.
Sure.
You know, the end result is going to be the same. You know, it's giant douche versus turd sandwich.
And there's nothing good. There's nothing good to talk about. Like if you listen to Rush Limbaugh, which I don't recommend, for 2 hours, he will not say one positive thing about Mitt Romney. In 2 hours. Try it for yourself. I guarantee it. I'll bet you what does Mitt Romney bet? $10,000? I'll bet you 10,000. I can't do that.
You have it going to work on your Romney impression?
No. Romney's very difficult. I tried because I wanted to record a promo as Obama and Romney. But
he's very bland.
Yeah, there's nothing impersonatable about him, really.
Right.
So, all right, well, that concludes the regular portion of the show. I encourage you to stick with us if you're listening on LRN. Come check us out on Ustream at schoolsucksproject.com/live, where we do a thing called the After School Sucks Special. We're going to continue this conversation for just a little bit, and then we're going to shift into some other topics. Cory and Osborne, thank you so much for coming.
Anytime.
All right, folks. So give us 10 minutes and check us out, schoolsucksproject.com/live. If you're not already there, we'll be back in a... What do you think?
Yeah,
Flash,
sure.
A GIF.
In a GIF, in a just a mo.
We'll be back in a bit.
In 2 shakes.
2 shakes. These are things that you can use when you want to say you'll be back quickly.
Right.
5 minutes, folks. We'll
Sometimes
be back.
I like to say BRB.
Like on a chat.
Take control of your money today and do it with style. Young Austrians are right now fashioning the silver economy. Would you like to take part?